Hi everyone, so today is the day. I have been using this palette for 4 days now, and I am ready to review it. I have used almost every single shade in it. I think there's one shade I haven't, but no, two. But I've swatched them and I've played with them like a little bit, just I haven't used them for a full day. But I'm ready to review it. I have decided how I feel about the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the other 3 looks that I've done this week. Hi everyone, so just real quick I wanted to go over today's eyeshadow look. I did reach into another Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. I know that not everyone does, but I like a really bright, impactful, shimmery inner corner highlight. That's just my preference for makeup pretty much all the time, and the Riviera palette does not have that, so I did go into the Anastasia Beverly Hills Miami palette. It's well, that's not true, I do have another one, but I use the shade Vanilla, and that's what's in my inner corner. I don't really like it. I don't think I'll use that again for an inner corner highlight, but that's what I used today. But then in the Riviera palette, this is just kind of a simple look, honestly. But when I first got this palette, this was the first look I thought of. And it was like, kabam, I need it. I want it on my eyes right now. So I do have the shade Bahamas in the crease and in the lower lash line. I have the shade Palermo all over the lid. I used Estate as kind of a transition shade on both the top and the bottom. And then I used this shade Sales as a brow bone highlight. And then I also do a matte highlight down the middle of my face. So I realized I only used 4 shades out of the 14 in here. But yeah, that's the look I wanted to do today. I'm really happy with it. I think it blended really nicely. So there we go. That is today's look. Look number 1 with the Riviera palette. Alright, so today is day 2 playing with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. So, I again used the shade Estate as a transition shade. I used the shade Cans in my crease, the shade Mediterranean on my lid, the shade Palm in my outer, I don't know, outer V, whatever, and as a liner. I used a highlighter that I'm panning right now as my inner corner because there's not a shimmery inner corner shade for me in here. I use the shade Sales, is that right? Yeah, as my brow bone highlight. Yeah, I think that's everything I have on my eyeballs. Oh, and then under is also Cans. So, look numero 2 with the Riviera palette. Hi everyone, so today is the 3rd day I have been playing with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette. I created a really neutral look today because I wanted to show that you can create a neutral look with this palette if you're not all about that color. So, I have Estate on as my transition shade. I have that on every day. And I have Sales on as my brow bone highlight. I have Cabana, is that correct? Yes. Cabana on my crease. I have Yacht on the outer corner. And that like I literally gasped when I put that on. And then I have Inheritance on my lid. On the lower lash line I also have that shade Yacht. And then I have Palm as my eyeliner. I used my highlighter today as my inner corner highlight because there's not a good inner corner highlight for like a light shimmery highlight. But there you go. That is my look 3 with the Riviera palette. And then I will just go ahead and go over what I've done today. Of course, I've used the shade Estate as my transition shade. It's a great transition shade for me. I used the shade Sales as my brow bone highlight. I used the shade Monte Carlo as my crease shade up there. And then Seaside is what you see all over the lid. I also have Monte Carlo down here. My inner corner highlight is an Urban Decay shade because I like a really bright, white, sparkly inner corner highlight. And this palette doesn't have that. But that's what I have on my lids, all over my eyeballs today. So, let's just get into the actual review now. So, first of all, the packaging, it's a fabric packaging. It's not quite denim, I don't think, but it feels denim-esque. It's got this gold lettering that says Riviera. I like this little touch with the V and the A. I don't know, I think that was cool. It's quite nautical. If you don't know, I am a marine biologist, so nautical things really speak to me. But I really like that. Each of these shades has 0.73 grams in it, which is about half the size of a MAC shadow. A MAC, like our typical single shadow, is 1.5 grams. So this is a relatively little amount of product. But when's the last time you used up an eyeshadow palette, huh? Just wondering. That is something that doesn't personally bother me. I get that sometimes it's like, oh, it's such a better deal. Look at how big they are. But if you're not going to use it, then I don't feel like that really matters. So yeah, that's what we got here. I really like it. It is $45. I did receive this as a lovely gift. I'm still just honestly quite shocked, and I really needed it at that time. I've been having kind of a rough time with my preliminary exams for my PhD, and it was just a big deal for me. So Amanda, who is Devious in Complicated, not and, but an in, she does not make videos, but she did go ahead and decide to send me this palette, and I am so grateful. So there we go. I will then go ahead and talk about this brush that I love. I have used this brush quite a few times. This is a great crease shade. So it's a little, to me, it's not quite fluffy enough for an all over transition shade, but for the crease shade, I'm sorry, I'm doing the very typical thing, but I just really like it. I like it really packs a punch. You put a lot of product in. Y'all know I love a flat shader. If you follow me on this channel, I love a flat shader to pack on the lid. I used this today, and it is such a good flat shader. I made a whole video about makeup brushes with the palettes that come with palettes and how I like them, and I love this one. I'm a big fan. I think this is a great brush. So there you go. You do have a mirror in this palette, and I have held the palette, used the mirror. I think it's a good mirror. I have no problem. Just a personal preference, I prefer like a square palette. Usually when I'm doing my makeup, I hold this palette. It's an old Stila palette, but I just like the way this fits. I can hold all of it. Oh my gosh, my nail polish just fell off. I don't even know how that happens. Like, do you ever get that? Like, where'd you go, girl? Where'd you go? I don't know. So anyway, I just like to be able to hold it all in one, and you can't do that because my hands are not quite this long. But yeah, it's pretty compact. I don't feel like there's a lot of wasted space. It's a little thick, if we're going to be honest. If you're questioning how it is size-wise in comparison to other palettes, I don't own very many Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. I own 2 other ones, and we'll do a shade comparison at the end just because I think that's a beneficial thing. I should probably grab the other one. Whoopsies. There you go. You got a really good look at that. So this is the Anastasia Prism palette, and they are the exact same size. They line up completely. So yeah, about the same size as a normal Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. We have 14 shades, 7 shimmers, 8 mattes. Here we go. I'm going to do some swatches for you. I'm going to swatch everything. I like to do live swatches. I know it's quicker if I just swatch them and then don't show you, but I like a live swatch. I'm just going to do a finger swatch. Here's the shade Sales. It's a matte white. I've been using this as a brow bone highlight every day. I like a matte white. I also put it down the center of my nose because I don't like a shimmery highlight all down my nose, but I like a little bit because I feel like my nose is slightly wide and I'd like it to look a little skinnier through the power of makeup. Then we have the shade Yacht. When I tell you this feels like a cushion of feathers that you would sleep on if you were like in ancient Greece and you were real bougie and you have like the palm trees fanning you, that's how this shimmer feels on the finger. Now, does that really matter? Probably not, because you're not gonna be sleeping in here, but just for your life knowledge. So this is the shade Yacht. I'm not digging in. I'll show you, just so you know. Then we have the shade Seashells. So I'm just boop, kabang. This is a blue shimmer, and to me, it's almost got like a gold duochrome. I haven't watched any other videos about this palette because I feel like it will bias me. So I don't know what other people are saying. I have a guess, but I don't know for sure. Then we have the shade Palermo. I used this the first day I had this palette because I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna need to play with that. So that one is a pink sparkle, but if you look at it, it's not quite as sparkly as these two. It's almost like a matte with some pink sparkle throughout it, but it's a hefty amount of sparkle. Then we have Seaside. That is what's all over my lid today. It's this beautiful slate shade, but it's almost got some purple. Sorry, I have a bone there. Everyone, well, not everyone. I'm sure there's people that don't, but I do. So it's like a slate purpley shade. It's swatching more purple than I feel like it actually looks on the lid. But you can be the judge of that. Then we have the shade Inheritance, which is this beautiful shimmery gold. I must say, I really like the name. Sorry. The sun is coming out. I like the names of it. I think they're funny. Then I have the shade Mediterranean, which is another purple shimmery, but it is much more purple. Mediterranean also has like pink and, I don't want to say holographic because I know holographic is like a buzzword. But it's got these like pink and multi-dimensional shimmers, and I can tell you that those stay on. I put on my makeup around 7 o'clock. I took it off around 6:30. Is that right? Around 6. So that's 11 hours, and the shimmers were still on here when I wore it 2 days ago. It's one of my looks. So then I have the shade Estate. Again, I've been using this every day as a transition shade. It's like an orangey matte. There we go. Then we have the shade Cabana. It's a true mustard shade. I know a lot of people like these shades as like a transition or a crease shade, and I did use it that way, and I enjoyed it as well. Bahamas. I don't think it looks as cool in the pan as it actually looks on the eyes. It is a true hot pink, but it's got some neon qualities to it, and these are all of the matte shades are truly matte. They're not like, oh, it's a little satiny, oh, we got some shimmer. Girl, it's matte. Then we have Monte Carlo. Again, that is what I have in my crease today, and this is another pink, but it's more like a raspberry shade. It's swatching slightly patchy, and I don't feel like that's how it applied at all. I don't think it looks that way. I didn't find it hard to blend. It's just a swatch error, probably just because of the way I'm swatching it, if we're being honest. Then we have the shade Cans, a beautiful purple, and the shade Palm, which is a matte deep brown. So 14 shades. As you can tell from these swatches, these are all extraordinarily pigmented. I had a slight issue with the shade Cans as far as blending it out, though I think it might have been the eye primer I was using, to be completely honest, because I only had it on one side. The other side blended out really nicely. But that shade was a little bit hard to blend out. As far as the other ones, no problem whatsoever. They just blend like really quickly. I feel like they diffuse really nicely. So I really, really liked that. These shimmers are insane. You start packing them on and you're just like, kabam, immediate pigmentation. Where's the brush? Where do we put the brush? I lost the brush. I lost it forever. It's gone. Oh, there. Found it. So let me just show you with a brush. I'm going to go into the shade Seaside just because that's what I have on. So there is some kick up. Did you see how I just tap? I'm not a digger. That's probably why I don't project pan my things as fast as some people, because I don't like to dig. So I'm just gonna brush swatch that for you. Well, that looks like crap. Why are you looking like crap? Because this morning, let me go back in. Am I just incompetent? There we go. It just immediately is really impactful. Now you can see, again, I think that the shade Seaside specifically swatches a lot more purple than it shows up on the lid. I think on the lid it's a lot more gray. But Mediterranean is for sure purple. I think this is an amazing palette. I have this thing with all 3 Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes that I own, where when I first got it, again, I didn't like specifically pick out this palette. I was gifted this palette. So it wasn't like I thought a lot about what colors I would look. Now, when she told me, I started looking. And at first I was like, oh, I'm really excited. Please don't get me wrong. But I was like, what am I going to do with this palette? And now I just find myself so inspired. Like every day I think of a different look I could think of. I think this color assortment is put together really nicely. I think these 3 shades would be great transition shades for lots of people depending on your skin tone. I think this would work for any skin tone. I don't think you're going to get a lot of ashiness if you're deeper than me. they're just great. They really, really are. I watched Beauty News. I'm sure a lot of you do. And Kat and Haley said that they wish this shade would have been a navy, and I think that would be really cool because I don't have very many good matte navies, but I have used this brown to deepen up the crease or as a liner. I haven't used it in my brows, but I believe it would work well for that as well, for my specific hair color. I'm trying to pan something, and I'm not a big fan of it, if we're being honest. But I love this palette. I absolutely love this palette. I find it to have a really great assortment of shades. I think they perform just as well as I could ever expect or want. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because there's, I don't know. I do find myself being drawn to do this kind of eyeshadow configuration where I do a crease shade and then an all over the lid and a winged liner. I usually am a crease shade, little bit, outer V, powder liner. That's what I do. Just typically. Now occasionally, you know, we get crazy, but for whatever reason, pretty much every look I think of with this palette specifically, this is the kind of eye look I want to do, which I don't think is a bad thing. I like the way it's looking. I just, for whatever reason, that's what I think about when I look at this palette. I don't really have a con. I don't think $45 for this quality of eyeshadow is a bad deal. I think, obviously, I did do a neutral look yesterday. I didn't like it that much, but I don't really like neutral eyeshadow looks just as a general rule of life. I feel like it needs a little more packed, a little more color. This shade, Yacht, I feel like, okay, sorry. In the swatch, you're like, oh, cool, it's a shimmery brown. I don't know what it is, but it's almost got some olive on the lid, because I was like, hey, girl, I like you. So I really like that Yacht shade. I think you can get a neutral look out of it. I don't think. I know you can because I've done it. But if you don't like color, I don't know that this is the palette for you, just because a lot of the standout shades are color. You know, when you think you've got these three and these, well, I guess we've got seven really colorful shades. So it's about half of the palette. So if you're like, I don't ever want to wear a pink eyeshadow, I don't think this is the palette for you. But they're great colors. They will perform exactly how you want. I just don't really have anything bad to say. Again, I have a couple of other eyeshadow palettes. I will say, so for the Prism palette, I feel like the shimmers are really beautiful as well, but they get a little like gummy almost. They hard pan really quickly. I have not had that issue at all with the Riviera palette. So if you want to do a little color comparison, I am noticing that this shade, what is that called? Dimension, is looking similar. So let's do a swatch comparison just for life knowledge. Here's Dimension. It is for sure deeper. It's more of a gray with a purple shift, whereas I find Mediterranean to be a purple and Seaside to really be a gray. So I do think Dimension is different, though they're similar. I'll swatch Pyramid as well next to Inheritance because they're both shimmery golds. Whoa. Wow. Pyramid, it's not as shimmery or beautiful as Inheritance. It's just not. I like the way Pyramid applies to my lids, but it's a little bit of a deeper gold, and also, like, just look at that. That's just not as good. Okay, I'll swatch Parallel because it's a matte brown. And here's Palm, so Parallel and Palm. Okay, why do you keep doing that? Stop. I don't know why it's doing. My lighting is like auto-correcting to that. I do think Parallel is a little bit of a deeper shade. Palm's a little more warm tone. So those are similar. So there are some similarities there for sure. Let's look. Eden and Coastline, I think, look a little similar. These. Oh, you're not even looking. Okay, these two. So let's check. Eden. Coastline is right here. So, Fitbit's in the way. There's Eden, there's Coastline. Eden is definitely darker and more orange than Coastline. And yeah, that's the only things that I can see that are really similar. So there are definitely some similarities in the pan. I think Palm and Parallel, these two matte browns are pretty much the same. I think the Inheritance Gold is much better than Pyramid. So, you know, there are some similarities for sure in this palette, but I think that you can justify having both of them for sure if you already have Pyramid. And it's the Prism palette. It's not the Pyramid palette. It's the Prism palette. Sorry, I don't know what I'm thinking. I do think you can like justify owning both of these because I do think they have different enough shades. If you didn't like the formula of the Prism palette, I do think this formula is significantly better. And then I'm gonna forward way back. I do have one of the first Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes to come out, and that is the Miami palette. So you might own this palette too. I don't. This blue aqua is really not near at all the same to Seashells, but there's aqua, there's Seashells. It's just not really even comparable. So yeah, I don't think that we've got a lot of overlap here. Now, again, I know that a lot of people do have other ABH palettes. I just personally don't. I'm really happy with this palette. I am so pleased with it. I love that I got it gifted. It meant so much to me. I am on a no buy. I would not have purchased this palette because of that no buy. I don't know if I would have chosen this palette, if we're being completely honest. If you would have said, girl, you can buy one palette. I don't know that this is the one I would have chosen, but I'm so happy with it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm so glad I own it. I think I can get some really unique looks out of this palette that I cannot get anywhere else. You know, I recently, last week I did a swatching all my green eyeshadows, and I was kind of talking about how a lot of things that you think are unique are not really that unique. I haven't done that with this palette, so maybe I'm incorrect, but I really feel like this is a really unique palette. It's gorgeous. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I really recommend it. I can't say enough good things about it. I think you'd be really happy with it. If this color scheme speaks to you, I recommend it. Now, I understand that $45 is a lot of money. So, you know, if you don't want to buy it, that's cool, you know, but if you're on the fence and you feel like you can afford that, because I understand if you can't, trust me, grad students don't make very much. But if you feel like you can financially afford it and you've just been on the fence about it, it's great, and I love it, and I highly recommend it. So that's really all I have for you. I feel like I'm just raving now, and there's a little bit of redundancy, but you know, whatever. So, as always, if you have any questions, requests, suggestions, or comments, go ahead and leave those down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so happy with this palette, if you can't tell. So yeah, I'll just see you all real soon. Bye.